Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by TrueCar.
What's up?
Hey, we're live. It's Auto Dealer Live. How are you doing, Mr. Villa?
It's good, man. Do you notice sometimes the sound? It sounds different every show. It's like a surprise. It's like opening up a surprise.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise sound today. So,
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it caught me a little bit.
Like, what did you hear? What did it sound? You ever wonder? Like, the reason I'm asking you, like, what did you hear? I know what I heard. Oops. But you ever wonder, like, sometimes if you look at, like, this little line right here on the piece of paper is blue, right? But you ever wonder that what that looks like to you may be green to me? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, because my wife tells me all the time I can't, see the colors that she's
No. It would
showing me.
register to the same color. You'd say that's blue. I'd say yeah, that's blue. But what if when you look at that, if I could see through your eyes, it would be what I see as green? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Isn't that kind of freaky? So my question is, what did you just hear when the show came live?
Well, I hear kind of loudness, I guess, and
Like
kind
an
of
airiness.
Yeah, kind of like I'm in a aluminum building or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of
Yeah.
crazy, like a garage.
What did you guys hear? What did you guys hear? We want to know that for this amazing monologue that has it's chock full of just automotive, just content. That until we bring our great guest on, you get to hear from you and I. We were told this week that Lou kind of besmirched our monologue a little bit.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Then he tried to tell me right in front of you and everybody else. He tried to tell me that's not what he meant. It's like saying you look a little fat today. And be like, I'm not fat. And then like 5 minutes later, he debates with you like back and forth, like, well, I mean, you're kind of fat. You kind of. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, well, I didn't mean you like were fat. I meant like that you're not as skinny as you.
Right, you're not as trim as you normally look for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know, not fat, no.
Yeah. You look like Brad Pitt used to look.
Right. Speaking of trim and looking good, check you out with your, your floral shirt.
Shirt.
But it's kind of different. It's really cool. Like I mentioned when I first came in, very eye-catching.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Looking good.
You're wearing Flick Fusion.
I got Flick Fusion.
Video
I got
Warrior shirt on, baby.
Yeah, I got Flick Fusion on my mind. So
what are you guys up to in podcast land? Auto Dealer Live. This is the show where dealers go. We're so incredibly blessed and honored that you guys would join us today. We have a great guest list, and it's episode 313, Dave.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, man. It's I'm hoping that's not like I'm hoping that's not like reflected to like when somebody's about to die or like a dog gets old. You know what I mean? It's like you no longer go, oh, look at that puppy. It's like the first 4 or 5 years are like a puppy. And then you start saying, oh, she's 10. Oh, he's 12. And he's limping around or whatever. It's like they started naming our producer started naming them by numbers. I wonder what that means.
At this point, it's reached some kind of milestone where they're like, will they even get to 314?
Yeah.
So that's
Help
probably what
us.
it is. So
Help us. Come on, like it, share it, tell everybody. Tell us if you want us to. Episode 400. Who wants to be on episode 400?
Put your
We'll book a guest
application
right
in now. Yeah.
If somebody just had a baby and you think they'll be old enough by episode 400 to be on the show, then come on, book them down.
Yep.
Hey, let's talk about something, man. The month of February, records have been shattered in the car business in the month of February. I heard great things. The month of January was a little bleak in some dealerships. The month of February, there was a comeback. I think that the optimism, this tax money is starting to come in. Dealers are starting to really kind of come into at least, what my ear to the ground is hearing. And March 1, man, when you look at the beginning of a month, no matter what you do, we're talking to car salesmen, we're talking to managers, we're talking to people in the automotive profession. When you're looking at the beginning of the month, Dave, what does that mean for you? You know, is it a whew, it's over, or is it a man, I can't wait to start? Does it depend on how your last month? I mean, how much credibility do you put on what you did in February for March? I mean, what does that look like to you?
Well, there's a couple things going on depending on the dealership that you're at, because remember, February, as good of a month as it may not have been for some dealers, but the thing is, it's a short month. So oftentimes, Dave, depending on how a dealer's done in February, they may carry over a couple days into March. So there's some out there that are still closing their final deals in the next day or two. And of course, obviously, for those who have started their new number come March 1, that's a refreshing time. I mean, no matter what, you know, first day of the month, when it's on the books, it's a refreshing time because now you have a new, you know, you're starting new. And you're thinking about, what are you going to hit this month? Are you going to hit that number, that 10, 20, 30, whatever it may look like for you individually? And then, of course, the dealer is thinking about that as well. You know, what's going to be our number for March? And March is typically a great month. You just said it. We're coming off of, you know, tax season. And now it's not like yesteryear when, you know, people had to wait 2 or 3 months to get their taxes back. It's available like really quickly. So it's a great time for dealerships. And I think March is going to be huge.
Yeah, I agree. And we have, you know, I look at it as, you know, going back to the question, when I look at, you know, how much credence do I put on last month? You know, how much do I carry from last month? And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna be very selfish as a salesperson with that answer. And I mean, I think you should as well. And let me explain myself. If you had a bad February, then you carry very little into March. It's a new month. You have a new beginning. What you need to carry into March out of February is learning the lesson to not repeat that again, right? And have 2 back-to-back losers.
Yeah.
But if you had a great month in February, then stand on it and build upon it, right? And then remember what you did. Look at and analyze what it was that made a difference. It wasn't just, listen, we as salespeople sometimes, we fool ourselves into thinking that it was just like, man, I just had a good month. And we say things like that. Well, I just had a good month. I had a really, really good month in February. You know, you look back in the summer, you're in the summer and you look back to the beginning of the year and go, well, February was really a good month. No, something happened, right? Something was put into place. You did something, or you stopped doing something that was either effective or ineffective to make that happen. It wasn't just by coincidence. And so I think that we need to, if we had a good month, I'm going to find out the key components to what I did that made that happen, and I'm going to try to repeat them, and I'm going to try to build off of them, right? Building blocks, right?
Yeah.
Just build something.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the cool things about the car business, Dave, is you really can look back and really pinpoint it and measure, you know, where everything came from, you know, the month before. So like as a salesperson, you know, hey, I got, you know, 8 deals because I sat down and made calls. I got 3 deals because I had repeat customers. I got 4 deals because I had a referral system going on. I mean, it's real easy to look and see, you know, hey, where was I most fruitful, and let's focus on that. So it's that's what I love about the car business as well.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, we're going to have a great show today, man.
I think so.
It's going to be an outstanding show. We've got a great guest list. We've got somebody on the show today that you and I haven't had on in a while, but he's back in the day. Matter of fact, I'm going to take it away from you. You know how you take an objection away from somebody?
Right.
I'm going to take the fact that Mike Carrera is going to say, I remember when you guys used to play the old intro by Motorhead. I'm going to take that away from you, Mike. You're still going to say it. He's still going to say it. He's going to find another way to say it.
Right.
But he always talks about the day when we had the old Motorhead intro back when Mike Cherip was a producer of the show back in the day. But it's going to be a good show.
It is going to be a great show. In fact, there are 3 of my favorite people in the car business going to be on today, so it's going to be exciting.
Who'd that be?
Well, it's Mike Carrera, Mark, the one you were just mentioning, Mike the car guy. He goes by. Just an amazing gentleman. We've got Anthony Alagona. Again, another just great guy in the car business. Just saw him speak, by the way, a couple of weeks ago at the Internet Battle Plan here in Clearwater, Florida. He did amazing, rocked the house. Along with James Klaus. James Klaus, one of our favorites. You remember, speaking of memories with guests, you remember when Jimmy came up to us, James Klaus, at Digital Dealer in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think it was our first one over there. And here comes Jimmy, right? And I think Mike the car guy came there maybe the first time to meet us.
It was the same. It was
the same event, yeah. And Jimmy came up and just like, wow, how refreshing.
Those are West Coast or like Midwest guys. You know,
Yeah.
obviously Mike was in California and then Jimmy was up in Montana. So we got to see them at Vegas, and it was our first time out there, and it was really cool meeting them. And So it's it's good, men. You know what? Some of these guys don't get a chance to come on as much as they used to, and but it's really cool to have them on today. Catch up a little bit. It's Mike the car guy, it's Anthony the car guy, and it's James the car guy. These are car guys.
Yeah, exactly.
We need a car girl. We need a car girl or two or three to call in. So listen, if you have some questions today, we're going to jump to a commercial, come back, and we're going to bring our guest on. But if you have the ability to jump on a call, 813-574-1820, 813-574-1820. Luis Torres is walking around trying to figure it out because I threw a wrench, a big old monkey wrench right in the middle of it. You should have seen it. He did a good job, though.
He did a great job.
Are we ready to go to commercial, Lou?
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Mikey. Today I want to share an exciting new feature with you from our sponsors over at FlickFusion. It's called VidMail. Look, in today's digital world, you can no longer rely on regular emails. Customers will either forget about them, lose them, or just completely ignore them altogether. So how can we solve this problem? Well, it's absolutely imperative that you add video to your emails if you ever hope to grab the attention of the modern customer. That's where FlickFusion can help. This top-notch video marketing team has just one goal, which is to provide you with fresh customers who are excited about coming into your dealership. They have an innovative service that can increase both your appointment percentages and show rates for your dealership. So what they do is combine traditional email with video marketing in order to captivate prospects and then direct them to your sales team. VidMail, you can even go mobile, from any device to any device, with both texting and live streaming capabilities. So why don't you check out FlickFusion's VidMail today at flickfusion.com and see how it can transform your digital advertising.
Hey guys, David Villa here, CEO of IPD in Tampa, Florida. I'm going to be with my man Eddie Perez on April 12th in the city of Orlando, Florida. What are we doing? We're influencing Orlando. How can you have an event title like Influence Orlando and not be excited? Look, I'm not talking about a suburb or a little sliver of the city. I'm talking about influencing the entire city of Orlando. April 12th at the Orlando Museum of Art. Listen, you got to be there. I'm going to see you then. We're all the millennials. We're all the influencers. I'll see you there, April 12th. All right, we're back. We're going to jump into our episode 313 panel. Without further ado, let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend. One of our original favorite guests. Haven't talked to this guy in quite a long time. Looking forward to catching up. We have Mike Carrera. We have Anthony Alagona. This is a guy who knows everything when it comes to BDC and how you can make it work at your store. And then we have James Klaus, which is just an old friend of the show. Guy's doing great things in 2018. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And again, I want to open up the phone lines, 813-574-1820. We're going to talk about some great things today. Cribbs, I'm going to throw it to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, welcome to the show, gentlemen. And we're going to start off. I'm going to kick it over to James Klaus. James, first of all, great seeing you recently at the Internet Battle Plan, and you definitely brought it when you spoke, brother.
Thank you so much for that, Cribbs. That means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So, hey, one of the things I wanted to open up the show with today is talking about the value of a lead, and I'm gonna say lead so that the viewers know what we're talking about. Obviously, we know a lead is really a customer, and so I don't want to take anything away from the value by calling them a lead, but I also at the same time want our viewers trying to understand what we're referencing. But in today's age, James, with dealers having so many ways to get leads, get access to prospects, I think something's occurred in the process in dealerships where the value of the individual lead, slowing down and taking time to understand what each opportunity is kind of fading because they're so, at times they feel so replaceable. We'll just buy more leads. What do you say?
Oh, that's a great question. So the thing with leads is they're not replaceable. Every time you get a lead, it is a unique opportunity, and we have to treat them that way. The one thing we need to make sure everyone understands, whether it's a dealer employee, a salesperson, a manager, etc., is what it takes to get a prospect in your showroom floor. What it takes for somebody to actually fill out a form submission and know they're going to get 100 phone calls. What it takes, for somebody to pick up the phone and call your store. And what happens when they do that, we need to put all of our energy, all of our attitude, all of our effort towards that person and serving them and giving them what they're looking for. If we do those things and we put our customers' interests before our own, we put our customers' interests above all else, everything else will fall into place. Gross profits will fall into place. The customer experience will fall into place. CSI will fall into place. So we got to treat them like people, yes. We got to treat them like individuals, yes. But we just have to answer their questions, serve their needs, and understand where they're coming from, because they're trying to fill a void or replace a vehicle, and we're their guide in that journey, and it's our responsibility to treat them well.
Yeah, those are great points, James. And let's go to Mike real quick. And Mike, I'll kind of ask you the same question. As a former GSM, you know how valuable it is to have clients in your showroom. And I think sometimes until we get into those real upper levels of management, we really don't understand the cost of acquisition and what the dealer is really spending for to get that opportunity, which each of those leads. Maybe speak on that for a moment.
That's exactly right. When you're looking at 100 leads, 150 leads, and you think to yourself as a salesperson, my close ratio is 15 to 20%. That means 80 of these are just wasting my time. You start to play that dangerous game of who's the buyer, and you stop reading through the lead and treating each lead individually, like James was saying so brilliantly. And that's what gets dangerous, because as a salesperson, they don't really understand the value of the lead per se. They just know they're getting inundated with requests for email price quotes or phone calls coming in looking for the best price. So we've got to slow those salespeople down and explain to them just continuously that complacency is a cancer. If you're just thinking there's more leads, give me the fresh leads. Do we got new leads? Can we get a new lead source? Can we buy more leads? That's the wrong way to do it. You've got to look at each lead as your only opportunity right there in front of you to sell a car that day. And as soon as you can get your salespeople on board with that, your close ratio goes through the roof. Everybody starts selling cars, and everybody's having fun.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back, Mike. I got a question, a follow-up question to that too. Looking, Mike, at and maybe I'll go to Anthony. I'll go to Anthony on this. Anthony, we're talking about leads here, and we're talking about leads, and we're talking about what it takes to get them in, and let's talk about what dealers are spending on leads. You have a lot of money being spent on leads. Matter of fact, if I were to interview a dealer, and you guys tell me if this sounds about right, I'm interviewing a dealer and I'm talking to him. Dealerships probably get their business from one of two ways primarily, the bulk of their business, and that's going to be from lead generation, of whatever source, whether that's marketing, lead generation, direct mail, SEO, website, email blast, whatever types of marketing, IP targeting, Facebook, and then they're going to get, then they're going to go through referrals and retention and things of that nature. So when you have that expense that's put out there, let's say $40,000 a month is spent on some type of lead generation. Anthony, is it something that we need to do a better job of getting a better ROI on those leads? In other words, if we're closing 20%, we should be closing 40%. So therefore, there needs to be a training mechanism put in place. Or is it that maybe we're spending, too much money? Or is it the lead source? That's probably a dynamic. And I think most dealers default on to cancel the lead source. The lead source, I need to change. I need to find a new one. But how much of that, Anthony, do you feel falls into the wheelhouse of, I just am not prepared to take it from 20 to 40%? Huh? Okay, so Anthony's on the...
Okay, let's go back.
I'm sorry. So let me ask the same question to Mike. I mean, Mike, I don't know if you heard the question as I addressed it to Anthony, but I mean, going into, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the magic bullet every dealer is looking for. Try to find the best lead source and increase your lead closing ratio without spending any more, without buying any more leads. And the only way to do that is with the additional assistance of a double down on the effort of the salespeople. If you got a internet sales department that's just operating on their own, maybe look at a BDC to follow up, because salespeople are hunters. They're always looking for fresh meat. So internet salespeople tend to fall into that trap of forgetting the leads that came in 7 to 10, 12 days ago. They just want to focus on the new leads. What do I got today to work on? What's fresh? Give me the Glenn Gary leads, the good ones. And we need to get the follow-up done and stay on top of it. Keep your name, the dealership's name in front of that customer's face, because they may be considering a deal, looking at what's coming up for Easter. What are the Easter specials going to be? Need to start thinking about buying a car now. And if they're forgotten about by the dealership, when they are ready to head out into market, their dealership's going to lose.
That's good.
Yeah, and let's go over to James. James, you're obviously you're VP of Sales at Dealer Teamwork now. You've run dealerships, no question about that. But let's talk about what's the pulse of dealers that you're talking with now when it comes to the spend on lead generation. I mean, what are their thoughts? Do you feel like they're continually searching for new things? Do you think that they're trying to move away from traditional things to save on the cost of getting leads, maybe digital things? So give some input there as to what you're hearing from dealers right now.
Absolutely. So as we see our margins, especially on new vehicles, compress even more in 2018, the value of cost of customer acquisition is very high. So I don't see dealerships having a problem spending money on leads. They will always spend money on leads as long as they're quality buyers. They're the type of traffic they're trying to get. We have a running joke here at Dealer Teamwork. How many leads does it take to sell 100 cars? Well, 100, because if they're the right leads coming from the right sources, then it only takes 100. I know it's an extreme example, but you guys get the point. So it's not just about lead volume, it's where are we getting the leads? Are we going after low credit customers? Are we going after high credit customers? Are we trying to sell $70,000 cars? Are we trying to get somebody in on a $199 lease? It's all about the goals the dealership has and then getting them the right leads at a cost that makes sense to them. Because not a dealer that I talk to every day, and I talk to a ton of dealers, would have a problem spending $100 or $200 or $300 on a lead that closes that day at a good margin. But they don't want to spend $10,000 on 100 leads or 200 leads, and none of them result in actual business. So we got to look at the leads as a revenue source. So as long as the leads have an ROI, and my store was always 8 times, I wanted 8 times ROI on any marketing, lead service, anything like that. As long as we hit their ROI goals, I don't see dealers having any problem spending money on leads as long as they're the right leads.
Yeah, hey, Kevin Reed just made a comment. Kevin, if you don't mind, I'm not sure if you're in a position to do it or not, but I'd love to have you call into the number on the screen, and I'd like to ask you about your latest comment there, maybe let you weigh in as well. I know Jason Wrights is watching. Jason, I'd love to have you call in as well, because I know you guys have an opinion on this. Kevin had a comment, and I'd like to ask him about it, and we'll wait to see if he calls in to read the comment and let him comment on it. And then, Jason, I know that you've got an algorithm and some ideas on what's effective when it comes to this topic as well. Because I know what I hear James saying, and James, I like that, because I think quality leads, a lead is really, a lead is just a list.
Yeah.
In reality, a lead is just a list. Until they agree to look at your program, they don't become, they don't become an opportunity, so to speak. And then when they agree to move the ball even further down the field, then they become a prospect really for your or candidate for your product. But I think that looking at that, are we? I'd love to, and I know Anthony I guess Anthony had something come up at the last minute. I know we put a video out today, but he hopefully we can get him on, because I really would like to kind of go the direction. Maybe one of you guys, Dave, maybe you could weigh in on this, to really go the route of how important it is. And I know I'm not just going training, man. I'm talking about how important is it that because what happens inadvertently is dealers will pull the bottom out from leads, or they're constantly changing. I was talking to someone earlier, and I said, I don't think that there's a bunch of companies out there that suck, that provide leads in different fashions, but yet you hear a dealer say, I'm changing after 3 months, I'm changing lead sources. I wonder if it's not that it became watered down or became less effective. I'm wondering if maybe it was taken for granted, and all of a sudden they look around, and we refuse sometimes as leaders to look at the fact that it could be an internal issue. And I'm wondering how much of that might go on when it comes to a lead source. And and I think the answer might be found if we look back and see what's the lead bridge that we've burned look like. How long is it? How many companies does it consist of?
Well,
You
this
know?
is the whole thing. You know, it's natural for us as salespeople and just humans, right, to want the path of least resistance. Of course, we would want the hottest lead, the one that's most interested in our product, the one that's most ready to go, for us to just pick up the phone or get an incoming, you know, inquiry and just make it happen real easily. But that's what I was really getting to in the beginning of the show when I talked about, you know, understanding the value of a lead. You know, many of those leads, Dave, they might be a little bit closer, yes, and you might be able to get a deal, you know, maybe percentage-wise a little bit better, but also that's the person that when they're closest to pulling the trigger, Dave, they could be the least profitable. I love the lead that you can pull out of or pull into the market. You know, that's one of the things, for example, with direct mail, and I know we do that, but that is one of the benefits there. It's also a benefit when you mine your service department. You're going to pull someone in that isn't in the market, and all these different lead sources. I just think that, you know, if a salesperson really could appreciate every single name on that list and not just be, you know, going down the list like we talked about earlier, but really understanding how valuable that next call could be the one that you know, that makes a difference. So
Yeah, and we have a caller in. Before we wait and bring a caller on, or I bring Jason Rice is on the phone with us. Jason, thanks for calling in. And Jason, I want you to be able to comment, but I want to ask a question based on just what you've been listening to and then what Cribbs just said. I bringing a dealer on one of my reps is bringing a dealer on our program here. Matter of fact, we had about third or fourth conversation today, bringing him on today in Idaho, and so we're talking to him, and he just happens to be one of these guys that I think is smart, and he's very inquisitive, asking a bunch of questions. He asked me something yesterday or the day before when I got on the phone with him, and it's interesting, it kind of fits into this wheelhouse. Jason, he said, Dave, he talked to Matt Lasco, he talked to a couple of guys, and they told him, you know, what needed to happen. And he asked me a question. He goes, why do guys like that and like some of the guys you're mentioning to me succeed and others don't? He goes, what is it that causes them to succeed? And he was asking so that he would do it. And I said, you know, I won't mention his name. I said, you know, I'll use John. John, you know what? That's a good question. And I said, here's what it is. I said, I'm going to tell you that they work the leads.
right.
I'm going to say, you know, so my point is, Jason, I wonder how, when we use references sometimes, I think that as vendors, we can look good when as a lead source because we have clients that make us look good. I mean, so answer that, weigh in, and bring whatever to the table and discussion-wise.
No, you obviously, thanks for bringing me on, but you mentioned Lasco, and again, there's somebody I do business with, and you mentioned them, and I know they're on the show quite a bit, so I feel free to be able to talk about it. And I can tell you, and then again, across 10 years traveling the country, I would say thousands of dealerships I put my foot into, the most successful stores, top down. And I can tell you, I do weekly calls with these stores, and the stores that have the owner and GM involved, which the Lascos do, you know, those are the stores that, like you said, make our job look easy and the results look easy, but it's their work on that end that's really making that happen because they're that effective. It's all top down, and internet and leads. It's a whole. I started doing internet back in '97, '98, and believe me, it still looked this way. It's like the redheaded stepchild. You know, back then they were taking. They didn't take, if they had a $50,000 budget, they didn't take 10 grand of it and put it toward internet. They added another $5 grand to the budget to do internet and try it out. So they really scrutinized that department, and it's still done today. It's scrutinized, but you know, the dealerships that really look at that department, BDC, internet leads, all that stuff, whatever it is, it's process driven. The GM dealer that's involved, hands-on, top-down, that's, to me, is the total answer. Anybody that I sign up with our current stuff right now that we do weekly calls with, if that GM and dealer's not involved, the success of it's really trivial unless you really got somebody good at the store handling it.
It's good.
Yeah, and
good. Thank you.
Let's go to Mike Carrera.
Thanks,
because yes, thank you so much. Let's go to Mike Carrera because I want to pose this as well. When we're talking about leads, quality of leads, and really understanding the value of a lead as a person that's reaching out to that lead or receiving that lead, tell me what you think about this. I think Dave, also you can weigh in as well, and James, but we'll pose this first to Mike. But if we have a list of leads or clients that we're going to call, Dave, if you put 3 people and line them up and they're calling even the same person, would you agree that someone's going to have a different outcome.
Sure.
Which means that there is a value to that lead. In other words, you can't just say they're bad leads or they're good leads, right? Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah.
I totally agree. There are no bad leads. They're all opportunities. But the difference is, sometimes you'll, what they were talking about, lead providers. Sometimes you'll sign on a new provider, Joe's companies, and you start getting leads from them, and the salespeople aren't getting connected. They're not reaching the customer, not getting answers back to their emails. So it's easy to fall into that trap. Well, this is a bad lead provider. So when you come in the morning, you open up your CRM, you see 3 leads from a great lead source. You jump on those with enthusiasm and vigor. And then you get to the ones from, Joe's lead company, and you pick up the phone, leave a message. It's not really good. I'm not saying that happens every day, but it's easy to happen. If you look at each lead, read through the lead, get the information, and pick up the phone with a smile on your face, regardless of the lead source, regardless of where it came from, your chances are going to be better. And that's just the basics.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, sure. And hey, while you're answering that, I'd like to open up and Jay Lasco, Tony, some of you guys that are weighing in, feel free to call in as well. Jay Lasco, I don't know if that's a question or comment. By the faces, I'm wondering if he's saying there are no bad leads, and maybe he's saying, what? I don't know if that's what he's saying or what, but then El Patron or somebody said work every lead. And, we're all over the place here in different ways. But go ahead, James.
Yeah, well, one thing I think we need to also add to this conversation is pipeline management. We got to train, we got to update, we got to teach our people how to manage their pipeline. Today's the 1st of March. If we have a guy that does 5 or 6 deliveries today, right, were those deals that were created today? Probably not. They were deals that were created via the pipeline in February. So we have to remember there's a 30-day cycle, a 60-day cycle, a 90-day cycle. I don't think as dealers we are educating our team on proper pipeline management. I know at IPD right now, David's talking every single day to his guys about their pipeline. Fill the pipeline, fill the funnel, more comes out the bottom. But you have to constantly be stocking the top of the pipeline. So if we teach our people better pipeline management, better long-term strategies, but just if you put more in, you get more out. Put more in, get more out. Stock the pipeline, and you keep a lot of deals coming in.
That's great. And I'll throw this out there. I think we have a caller coming in, but I'll throw this out there as something Dave and I experienced at a dealership recently in Texas. We went to just did some training over a few days, and there was a list that they were talking about, and we actually role played with this particular group, and about 12, 15 salespeople, I don't know, but in some seasons, some of the guys had been there like 10 years. And matter of fact, one of the guys that role played had been there 10 years. And I was like, geez, but it's not his fault. It's training and it's a lack of it. But anyway, long story short, there were 3 of these particular makes within a somewhat of a close proximity. And this manufacturer's OEM gave these leads out. Do you remember not exactly what they called them, but basically they were leads that the manufacturer, I guess, gave out that were people who showed interest in that make. Fair enough to say that?
Yep.
Okay. And so anybody can call them and kind of first dibs. And they were asking us, they were afraid to call and talk to the customer. They didn't know how to call and talk to this customer that had already showed interest in it. So they weren't, and what the objection that they couldn't overcome was if they're closer to this particular dealership than they are to me. So they were getting this small, really in my mind, simple objection that would be, it would be very simple in my mind, and they were just caving on it, and so they would just literally blow through the list, and they actually began to look at the list, Mike, as invaluable or unvaluable, not valuable. And so anyway, I role played with them a little bit, and my comment was very simple. I gave them an idea. I'm like, when you're on the phone with them, I said, find out what makes you different. I said, do you feel like your dealership is a better place? I mean, I'm legitimately, do you feel like your dealership, and I had to ask this because you couldn't tell by their demeanor, but I said, do you feel like this is a better place to work? And they go, yeah. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you guys have anything here that separates you? And I'm not kidding you. All of a sudden, like 2 or 3 of them go, yeah, well, we got this. And one of the other guys said, well, we offer this, and this. I said, okay. That's how you get them in.
Right.
I said, what just lit up on you, I said, you talk to the customer and say, look, I know we're maybe 20 minutes out of your way, but this is what we do. And and it's a lead that showed interest, and all you got to do is overcome 20-minute drive. Come on, man. So I think that there is really, I think what happens, Mike, we the least objection, and I think James has gotten a lot more perspective being on the vendor side, maybe than he used to. we get this objection that can be overcome, but we stay away from leads. And I think that that's what keeps somebody from being maybe selling 5, 7 more cars a month. I think that legitimately keeps people in that position. And so, does that make sense to you? Have you ever had an experience like that, Mike, where your guys were maybe afraid to call leads because of objections that should be easy to overcome?
Oh, definitely.
I mean,
There's most of the manufacturers, anytime there's a big event, whether it's a drag race or a county fair or anything where, the OEM will set up a display and give out, free sunglasses or whatever, just fill out this little information. Those entry forms will inevitably get distributed to all the dealers in the zone, and there's tons of salespeople that I've had working for me that see those leads come in and go, oh, this guy isn't going to buy a car because he just wanted the free tchotchke at the local fair. So they would automatically just mentally dismiss them. And even forcing them to do the tasks and make the calls and send the emails and do that, their heart wasn't in it. But if you can find something that excites you and then share that with the customer, it's not selling anymore, you're just engaging them. So I would just kind of switch it up and tell the salespeople, don't call them to sell them anything. Call them to find out how the fair was. Call them to find out how the races went. Hey, man, I see you were at the races. You got your information from, brand X cars. I didn't get the chance to go out there because I was here working. How was the races? Start a conversation. More often than not, it turned into at least a friendly conversation and a potential follow-up. Sometimes it would turn into a sale, but at the bottom line, they were creating conversations.
Yeah. We have a caller.
We have a caller.
You want to read Jay? Were you going to read Jay's?
Yo.
Yeah, I was going to read Jay Lasco's comment here. When we were
Hey
talking
Tony,
about
1 second. I saw your comment on Facebook. I want you to bring that up maybe in the discussion here. But let us read Jay's. Jay was clarifying his comment before we kind of shift gears on to what Tony's going to say.
Yeah. When the comment was brought up here on the air about there being no bad lead, Jay Lasco just said I was referring to quality. He said there is no bad lead. I can hardly see.
They are all opportunities.
They are all opportunities. I can get you.
He said, "I can get you." He said, "Here, let me get you." There's some younger eyes. Look at it. I can get you leads all day long with bad phone numbers, fake emails, and Jane Doe names. If you want to buy them, call me. Meaning he was saying that there are bad leads, and I don't know really what he was referring to.
Yeah, I think he's talking about when you're purchasing leads and the information isn't correct, those are bad leads, and we certainly get that. That's for sure.
But I think he was referring to maybe a comment. I think El Patron or somebody said there's no bad leads. Of course, they're bad leads. And here's the problem: there are bad leads, and they're bad lead providers, and they're bad, and then there's bad. There's just cheap leads, and there's leads that, again, a lead is just a list, and so you can get fine-tuned and get, but if you're pitching this as really, the holy grail of leads, and all of a sudden your guys find out, and the quickest way to get somebody off of leads and not believe in it for a long time is to provide sucky leads.
Right.
So there's two sides of that coin there. Jay's 100% right.
Sure. It's got to be accurate information. So let's go to on the line. Who do we have on the line? Tony?
Yep.
Tito? How you doing, sir?
What's going on, y'all? Tony with the keys, man. Thank y'all for having me on.
You're back.
You're welcome, Tony. So you've been listening.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. So you've been listening in, and here's your opportunity to weigh in and talk to dealers.
Absolutely. So like I said, every lead must be handled accordingly. Every one of them is different, but also every lead is a seed, man. So every opportunity that you get to talk to somebody, that you get to get in front of somebody, that you get a contact of somebody, whether it's a list, whether it's a phone book, whether it's on somebody else's car, like if they have their vehicle wrapped or anything, every lead is a seed, and you can actually, you don't have to sell to them, you can sell through them to generate referrals. But I had made a comment about, a crazy idea about dealerships maybe using some of that marketing ad spend to generate leads on their salespeople, and creating superstars, creating rock stars, or the ones that are already rock stars, and creating some credibility for them to the masses whenever they're generating these leads, and presenting it to them in a way where people know who they're coming to see. People know who they're coming to see. People create their own leads for the salesperson. That's just a crazy idea. Maybe that's down the line. Maybe it's happening now.
But I negotiated just recently a deal with my GM to join a network referral group in my community. So I'm in this group who actually full of other business people and generating referral leads. So these are even more warm, just getting into the community. There's so many different leads, and every lead is a seed. So nurture them, take care of them until it grows into a tree that's just dropping apples on you.
I appreciate that. And let me say this too, thank you, Tony. And regarding what Tony said, I think Anthony's on as well, but I'm not sure if Jason Rice is still on, but he mentioned on Facebook he wants to chime in, so I'm assuming he might still be hanging with us. But let me say this real quick, because really, guys, if you're listening to this, what Anthony said is not only not far-fetched, that is a lead. Because if you invest into your salespeople and you invest into branding them, right? And for what reason? It's not so they can become a celebrity. It's so that they can reach out to the community and produce leads. Again, how does a lead, what is a lead? We act like a lead, only comes from an algorithm or only comes from a computer. But the reality is a lead comes from networking, it comes from social media, it comes from meeting people, it comes from references and referrals. I can tell you one thing, if Tony, by the way, Tony's, everybody loves Tony's, every lead is a seed quote. It must have went up 3, 4, 5 times. And so you need to coin that, baby. But the deal is this, man. If your customers, your referrals, they need to they're sold already on you. You've heard me say this has been in my heart for the last month. Your customers are sold. If you go to Outback Steakhouse, you're sold on it. But it's not your job. It's not your job to refer people to Outback. You're sold, right. You're spending money, you're doing more than your share. It's their job, right, as a restaurant, to get you to become an advocate for them. To refer people. So go from retention and sold to referral and advocate. And that is powerful right there. So
Yeah, that's correct. And Tito, I like what you said about going to the dealer and getting them to invest in you to help promote you, and it's a wash for them. The one thing I would say though, in dealers' defense, I know that dealers are becoming more open-minded to this idea. But I would also caution salespeople to be patient. You've got to prove to the dealer that that you're consistent, that you have good judgment, that you're going to take advantage of the spend because you're asking them to spend money. So, but don't let it stop you. So let's go to Anthony Alagona. Anthony, we've been talking all the entire show about the value of the lead. Do we understand what each lead?
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, we can hear you. We've been talking about the value of the lead and really dealers really understanding, and when I say dealers, I mean two salespeople as well, really understanding the value of a lead.
By the way, Anthony was in a fender bender, we understand, and had to wait for the police and still called in, man.
Oh man.
I hope you're okay, brother.
Yeah, are you all right, man?
And
everything's quite okay. Yes, I apologize for going to call in.
No, man. Well, thank you so much for calling in, brothers. We're honored that you were able to do that. But go ahead.
Yeah, and Anthony, I know this is right up your alley because you're working with individuals and BDCs all over the country, and as you're walking through those in and outbound phone calls, do you feel like, or do you have an opportunity to share with salespeople what each individual lead, how important each one is, instead of just feeling like you're going down a list, working in a call center? Maybe bring some light to that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges I see when I'm going to dealerships is how they engage and handle leads, and at the end of the day, these leads are people on the other end of the phone, so to speak, and it's very important that we treat these people with respect, because there's a big loss of credibility in the automotive world when it comes to car sales, and they don't trust us as it is. So we have to treat them like the individual that they are, and to really care for them when we're talking to them and identify their needs. So that's something I really stress on. I tell people at the end of the day, this is a people business, and no matter what you're going to do, you have to be really good with people. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much. And Mike, we're gonna keep going back to you and James here for a second. I'm gonna let Jason Rice. I think he had something else he wanted to add. Jason, you still with us?
Yeah. Yeah, I am, and don't want to get long-winded here, but just looking, we deal a lot with dealerships and their inventory, and looking at these CRMs, there's not a lot of talk about the inventory. And when I'm looking at lead providers by inventory, and let's take new for example, intuitively probably know the more leads I get on vehicles in stock, the more new car leads I can get with cars with stock numbers on them, I should be able to have a higher closing percentage than leads without stock numbers on them. Yet, hardly any of these CRMs, not that I know of, it will allow you to track any of that data. So we're pulling that out. And so, for example, you're bringing up these, what they call hand raiser leads, people, filling out name and email address to get a T-shirt. Now a dealer gets a lead on this. And so we start breaking down these providers, even down to the dealer's top 20, and look at, for example, one of the dealers, the highest percentage of leads are coming from, let's say, Ford Direct. Well, those Ford Direct leads, only 4% of those leads actually come with stock numbers. So it's not surprising that those leads become a very low closing percentage. But the other thing, so then I look at another lead provider, maybe like a listing site like Edmunds, where 97% of those leads are coming in with stock numbers. So I'm getting high percentages of leads. So needless to say, the closing percentage on those leads are higher. Mm-hmm. But the other aspect of it is looking at lost sales. A lot of these CRMs allow you to move leads to lost. And if you look at it by provider, one of the reports I was looking at earlier, I did a Facebook Live about it. I put a link on here and mentioned it. But, Edmunds, for example, this dealer would only close 4%. So on the surface, I'd want to close that or cancel that lead provider. Mm-hmm. But yet I can notice that we have a high reply rate, so we're able to get in contact with these people. But we also lost 10 deals. So in reality, when I look at what I sold, the 3 deals the dealer did, and then the 10 that was lost, that was 13 total deals out of this batch of 77 leads, which that true lead provider closing percentage would be a 17% closing percentage. To me, that's an eye-opener into a process problem. So by lead provider, again, on the surface on the CRM, it's a very low closing percentage. When I look at lost opportunities or percentage of inventory of those leads on cars that actually have in stock, it's a different profile, and I wouldn't cancel that lead provider. I got to work on my process. We need to do the breakdown with the salespeople too, but I just wanted to touch on that. You just can't look at closing percentage by provider and leads and sold, because there's a lot deeper look into some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
To get true exposure.
Well, thank you very much. Lewis Hodder and 3 Fat Devils in here, man. Turn that air on. And so, hey, let me ask you guys. Let me go to James Klaus, Mike Carrera. Let you guys weigh in a little bit here as well. As we're coming into the end of the show, the last few minutes of the show. But I mean, we've talked a lot. Obviously, we're kind of going around some of the same circles. But there's a lot to talk about here. We're not even scratching the surface, as always, within this time frame that we have. But I mean, maybe Mike, bring up something maybe from a different perspective, something that that we haven't maybe talked about, something that hasn't been discussed, or really maybe nobody has thought about, or at least mentioned on the show today, that might bring a different perspective. And I'm going to go to James and ask you to do the same thing. But Mike Carrera, man, what have we not talked about? Mike the car guy, you with us still? James, what have we not talked about, man?
Well, we haven't talked about the cause and effect. So if our people receive a list and they are scared to call that list, have we as managers thought, why are they afraid to call that list? Have we failed them as far as training? I mean, if my guys ever came into my office right now and said, we're scared to call a prospect, I would assume that is my failure, because I have not trained them properly on what they need to do on the phone. So if we're having a hard time connecting with people, if we're having a hard time getting our people to pick up the phones, chances are we failed them in a training aspect, or we did not empower them enough to make them want to pick up the phone. When I'm dialing, I got a smile on my face. I'm standing up. I'm going bananas. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a very low energy, low key individual.
No,
I get excited. I'm me. I got to be me. Mike's a super positive guy. Anthony's a great guy. I know him very well, but we're all a little bit different. So what can we do as managers to manage our people properly? And if they're afraid to pick up the phone, if they're afraid to engage, have we not educated them on the customer journey or the customer cycle? Where have we failed them? That would be the one thing I'd say we could bring up, because it's easy to point fingers at salespeople. But remember, when we point a finger at somebody, we got 3 pointed right back at us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is what I was talking about when we opened up and we really began this discussion about, do salespeople or do those who have access to leads, do they really understand and appreciate their value? And James kind of hit it on the head when he talked about having that excitement. I mean, if you understand their value, that's how you respond. And to have leadership do that, it gets everybody, it's contagious, right? It gets everybody on board. But one of the things I want to also bring out that James kind of touched on earlier was, James mentioned, having your pipeline, understanding the value of managing your pipeline, right? And what it made me think about, and I'm glad you brought that up, James, because it made me think of, Dave, that we own 100% of our leads.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of if they're going to buy, it's when. It's on the calendar, right? Mm-hmm. When is it going to fall on the calendar when they buy? James talked about February deals, falling into the first day of March. Mm-hmm. And that's very true. If you get multiple deals on the first day, probably came from February pipeline. But that idea of understanding that you own 100% of those leads, I think helps with the idea of managing a pipeline of leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anthony, a question I'd asked before I realized you weren't on in the beginning of the show, I kind of went to you and brought up the fact of the need and the gap for training at a dealership. And I know that's your specialty, but really with a dealership, one of the first things they do is they go and they cut these lead sources. And because I think that we as salespeople, sometimes don't value the lead for what it is. And so dealerships a lot of times don't know where to go, because in a lot of times I've talked to dealers candidly, to be honest with you, they're not transparent a lot of times when you're trying to sell them something or trying to resell them something. Sure. But when you talk to them candidly behind the scene, they'll tell you, I'm not going to throw good money after bad. Listen, I know I have a problem over here and I have to deal with that, but the reality is, until I deal with that, I'm not going to spend more money in this area. So I think that maybe aware of it, and but I don't know if they see the need necessarily, Anthony, a lot of times to really fix that problem, or maybe even where to begin. Is that something that you think is that you would diagnose at a lot of dealerships across the U.S.?
The fact that they don't want to invest in training, is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that that would be the nutshell. But I'm saying the fact that they possibly, they don't want to invest in it. They know they have a need, but maybe they don't. The need is not large enough in front of them at that point and glaring at them to where they're realizing that it's a training issue, and rather than a lead issue.
Yes, absolutely. Training is a very big part of being successful, especially with dealing with leads. But the problem is, honestly, is the accountability. And the way I paint the picture to a dealership is I say, listen, I'm the same thing as a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. If I give you a meal plan and I give you a workout plan and you don't follow both, you're going to stay out of shape. As far as engaging leads and engaging people, it's just a language, right? We already know what people are going to push back about: the price, the research, the availability, credit issues, and trade-in. We already know all the main reasons why we perceive them as objections, when really they're just expectations of the customer. And it's about practicing your craft. I put a post out this morning. I said, your wordplay is going to affect your payday. If you don't think that the words that you say and the order that you put them in are going to affect how successful you are or you aren't on the phone, you're highly mistaken. It's just a matter of making sure that you over-deliver on the customer experience and that you're speaking the same language as the customer through their eyes. Good point. Yes, dealerships would rather put it off than address it.
Well, Anthony Alagona, listen, I appreciate you coming on, CEO, founder of Anthony Alagona Enterprises, and reach out to him if you need help. And then, of course, we had Mike Carrere, who posted that he got lost the signal, but he did post a final comment for us not to forget. We'll get to in a second. James Klaus, Vice President of Sales at Dealer Teamwork. If you need help with good leads, you need help with the right kind of leads, somebody who's been on your side of the desk, make sure you reach out to James as well. And guys, I'd encourage you to go back through, make some comments, because we have a lot of good questions that have come in. But thank you guys for being with us today, man. It's been our honor having you on. And Anthony, I'm glad you're okay, man.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Sorry I called in late.
Nope, no problem. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, James. Let's recognize a couple of people as well that have joined. Bert Vickery joined. Mike Phillips, Joe Ingram, if you guys scroll down for us, Nick Eru.
Travis Lumsden.
I always say Nickaroo, but I think he pronounces it a little bit differently.
Nickaroo.
Nickaroo. I love Nickaroo.
Nickaroo.
Got
Travis BJ Gilroy.
Travis
That's
Lumsden.
a cool name.
Pat Klein.
Right? BJ Gilroy. Hey, Miss
Gilroy.
BJ Gilroy.
It's almost like a cartoon character name.
No, it's like hey, this is BJ Gilroy. We got our 2:00 appointment. Tell him BJ Gilroy's on the phone.
This is BJ Gilroy with your afternoon ride.
Hey, I want to read a comment. We have a couple minutes. I wanted to, do we still have any callers on, Lou?
Jared Michelle.
No, we're good.
Spencer.
Okay.
Thank you.
No callers? Okay. There's a comment by Travis Lumsden and Joe Ingram that were kind of back to back there. Okay, so Joe Ingram said most dealerships lack training and accountability. It's the nature of the salesperson as a whole to take the path of least resistance. Mike Phillips, failure is always from the top down. Managers don't accept that it could be something to do with them. Leaders embrace it and make a change, then produce wins. I love that. I agree with that philosophy. We need to take responsibility for our teams and for the lack of production. And there was a comment by Travis Lumsden. This is pretty cool too, and this is a good comment. I'll read it just in case you can't see it. I don't know.
Right.
Why aren't we? Now listen, this is cool because
you have your glasses on though.
I do, but at least I have my glasses on.
Okay.
Yeah. So why aren't we reassigning leads, okay, instead of making them lost or marking them lost?
Yeah.
If one of your reps can't get a solid response from a lead, it could be a them problem. I agree with that. Amen, Travis. We should take those leads and reassign them to at least get another crack at it. The client may think you're too old, too young, too masculine, too feminine. They won't ever tell you this, by the way. Give them another go with a different rep if you're going to make it market loss anyway. I can't agree with that anymore because it's a number of things. But the reality is it could simply be, and listen, this is where you managers have to realize, or you're not being effective. You have to realize who handles certain accounts. Look, there's certain accounts that come in, and I'm very transparent with my guys, and I'm saying I'm going to give these accounts that may be easier or may be, a very, very hot lead to only a couple of reps that I know are going to do something with them. Because here's the deal, I can close them.
Right.
But I'm going to feed them to my guys and I'm going to give them to my guys.
Sure.
But the reality is they better close.
Yeah.
And because they're in a position that I know can close. And so, I tell some of the guys out there, then they go, well, why can I get some of those leads? Well, earn them. And what I mean by that is mature and get to the place where you figure out as a salesperson what it takes to discern and read and work within side of customers. And it could be one of those issues that Travis brought up, and maybe where they like dealing with somebody that's maybe older, younger, what have you. And of course, they're not going to tell you that. But a lot of times, it's just the lack of experience to know how to handle a deal and in a certain situation.
Well, I love the idea of reassigning the leads.
Love it.
I might even go as far as to reassign the leads and not even share with them that they were assigned to someone else in the first place.
Sure.
Because you don't want to feel.
What happens is they talk though. Sometimes they talk and they find out and they get butthurt a little bit. And the reality, what they do.
Could you say that again?
Butthurt. They get butthurt. And the reality is, the reality is you might as well be transparent sometimes. Look, and I want my guys to get better. Listen, I'm going to tell you the training that I've been on for the last 6 months. I want my bottom performers all to perform, middle performers all to perform like top performers, because a top performer wasn't a top performer always, all right? And do you believe, me and Sean Hayes talked the other day on his Sales Hustler, do you believe they're born or made? I believe they're made. I don't believe a salesperson is born and they're not all like me and they're not all like you, right? They're just different personalities. But I tell you one thing, they all are grown. And if you're going to, and grown means something too.
But you know what, Dave? And I don't want to harp on the training thing, but you have to feed and water and seed, the seed, because and you have to do it regularly, right? Think about it.
We talking about yes, we do. You do, yes.
The point is, if
it's going all right. Yes, you do, Dave. Often, yes. Go ahead.
All right. So great show today. A lot of talk about leads.
Tito said the way we handle leads is a part of the experience. Meet the customer where they are and provide the experience that makes them want to tell the world about you and how easy it was to do business with you and your dealership. Amen, brother.
And by the way, Tito, when he called in, Dave, he took ownership of the leads like we were talking about, that you own 100% of the leads. He sees leads everywhere he goes. He sees an opportunity, whether it's someone he meets, at the coffee shop or whatever the case may be, like he talked about. I love that. It's called the walking lead, just like the Walking Dead, but except for they're alive.
Yes.
So,
What do you say, Lou?
Kim, why are you looking at me like that? Why are you laughing at me?
Because I threw you out. Hey, so we got look. Let's read a couple comments real quick as we get ready to end the show. Jared, Michelle, Spencer. If a salesperson says a lead is lost in the CRM, I always reassign to someone else. When they bought, I showed the first salesman, they said it was nothing. Amen. I love that. It's training because it's not to rub it in their face. It's not to go, hey. It's to go, look, man, it's a teaching point. If we want our people to be better, then we've got to teach them, and we can't be afraid. Listen, the worst thing you can do is not teach somebody and take something away from them, not teach them. Give them a legitimate opportunity to not penalize them, but to teach them, and then fire them. Look, the worst thing we could do is 3 months down the road, fire somebody that we never told what we expect them to do. Sit down with them. Tell them this is what you're doing wrong. I'm removing this lead from you because I'm showing you that it's not a lost lead, but it is a lead that can be worked. And you will get these leads when you learn how to work them. Now I want you to go over and talk to so-and-so and figure out what they did that you weren't able to do, or whatever it is, and use that as a teaching moment. I promise you. Laura Hayes, yes, I have a client that has an employee that their only job is to revive the dead leads. It works. Amen. Amen. Laura Hayes.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So great show. Let's talk about some upcoming shows because I think we're pretty much out of time.
Yep.
So let's talk about, we've got coming up, we've got Blinker and Offer
What
Up.
are you looking at it for?
What? Oh, yeah. We got some upcoming shows. Anyway. Producers like, what are you telling them that for? We're going to change the shows. We say, that is one thing that's really cool about Auto Dealer Live, though, Dave, is that we do change shows. Like sometimes if we have something hot that's going on in the market, we're going to just switch things up. And was that a good recovery or no?
No, I don't know what Lou's even talking about. I couldn't read his lips. He was just. I think he was just telling us to wrap it up.
All right.
All right. So hey, we got a brand new. I know you guys welcomed her on some of you guys saw on Facebook, but we have a social media specialist that has joined our company. She's amazing. Her name is Taria. That's Maria with a T, and she's awesome. And she has joined our company, and we're so excited to have her. So we're going to give her a Facebook hand. If you guys are watching, man, Taria has been managing. She's right in front of me here, and her and Kim, and they're managing the social media. Can you give her some likes? Come on, give her some hearts, give her some likes. Just tell her she's done a great job. I'm watching the screen, and I'm watching her. Before you even finish commenting, she's like, thank you. Thank you. She's on it, man.
Can you come over just to wave? Can you come over? Come around just to wave?
Come on over.
Because, when you're watching in the audience, you're like imagining who's over there? Who's over there? Say hi.
This is Taria. Hey. So very, very cool. We're so happy to have her as part of the IPD family. Hey, we have a great show next week. We won't tell you what it is, but it is great.
Right.
Stay tuned.
All right.
Oh, we got to give some stuff away, Lou.
Oh, we're giving some
You're
stuff away.
supposed to do that.
We're going to give it away.
What are we giving away? What are we giving away? You guys have time for... So today's top influencer is going to win some swag, some stuff. What do we have, Lou? Tell us what we have.
T-shirts from Reunion Marketing. As you can see on the bottom of the screen,
Throw me a shirt.
you will see the shirts being worn by our model, Tommy Uwell.
Tommy Elwell.
Wearing
not
our
Uwell.
t-shirt.
Yeah, he is on the
Did
screen.
you hear that?
Yes. You hit the microphone, didn't you?
Yeah, but the
Stop
shirt
tapping
did.
it. Yeah.
That sounds pretty freaky.
All right, so there's your
All right, so you got,
those
you
are
got
t-shirts. We'll
that's
be
a pretty
giving
cool
those away.
shirt,
Yeah, it's
right?
a nice shirt.
Who wants a Reunion Marketing shirt? Come on.
Kind of
whoever
material.
just, I want the most hearts, the most likes. This is a cool shirt right here.
Boom, 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 boom,
I
boom.
got one when it came in. What else we have? Give me a
We have
couple more.
three t-shirts.
And are these the three shirts we're giving away?
Yes, sir.
So it's all Reunion Marketing today?
Reunion Marketing.
That's a
all
pretty
today.
cool shirt. Look at that.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Dinosaur. Evolve.
All right, you can't see it, but it's like a little dinosaur on there. It says Evolve, right?
Yep.
Little cactus, little dinosaur. That's pretty cool. It's like a little bit, whatever, little video game looking dinosaur walking over some cactuses. I don't know.
Here's one that's really cool too.
Yeah.
This one's got a rocket ship with all kind of like little icon buttons that you see on your phones and computers.
Woo!
Thank you, Reunion Marketing,
Hey,
for the
I
t-shirts.
tell you what, the three people going with the t-shirts are, I want you guys, just real quick, just post your comments, post something you love about Auto Dealer Live, all right? And so we're gonna pick publicly, right on the feed, we'll pick 3 comments. We'll pick them in 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes, just post on the feed something you like about Auto Dealer Live, whatever it is. You know what I mean? If you like,
And if you say the opening monologue, you automatically win.
you might automatically win this shirt,
Yeah.
all right?
Thank you, TrueCar. Thank you, Flick Fusion, for your sponsors.
Yes, thank you, TrueCar. We got some cool swag coming from TrueCar, right?
Yes, sir.
And then we have some Flick Fusion swag as well. We're going to be giving away. And you guys are a great audience, man. We love you, and thank you for listening and for hanging with us and all your comments. So I look forward to seeing what you guys like about Auto Dealer Live. So we're going to give these shirts away in 4 minutes. 4 minutes.